Hello everyone and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Today we're going to look at contractions. A contraction is when we take a verb and usually the subject and we contract both of them together. For example, I will becomes I'll. You will becomes you'll. We have becomes we've. We had becomes we'd. There's other forms as well. For example, what is can become what's. Some examples. What's your name? She's a nice person. We're going to the beach. How's your friend? You remember, the one who had the accident. So these are just some very basic examples of contractions. Many people think that we don't use contractions except in informal speech. But actually, the opposite is true. Contractions are not only necessary, but they are very, very important in spoken English. People who don't use contractions are perceived as being loud or emphatic, or maybe a little bit, a little bit forceful. Let me give you an example. Here in the UK, most of us grow up with families and parents. I remember my mother. So she would say, "Where's the dog?" Contraction, where is. Where's the dog? And I might say, "Oh, what? Sorry, did you say something?" She would say, "Yes, where's the dog?" And I might say, "Sorry, I was watching TV, I didn't understand. What is it that you want?" And if she got angry, she would say, "Where is the dog?" So, because she's not using a contraction, it's emphatic. And also, it sounds a little bit loud and rude. British people, when we go to the pub in the evening, we don't sit around saying things like, "Oh, I have a colleague at work who doesn't use contractions. Isn't that terrible?" That's not the way that we speak, and it's not the way that we think. I do, because I'm a teacher, which makes me a little bit dull maybe. But most people just think, "Oh, I don't like her. She seems aggressive. She sounds loud." And they get this because people aren't talking in a way that they can relate to. If someone is always perceived as shouting, it kind of drains your energy. But usually the problem is very simple. It's things like language. Let me just follow up on that stereotype thing just for a moment. If you don't use the present perfect, then you have the same problem. "Hey, how have you been?" "I went to the shops on Tuesday. I walked the dog on Thursday. I won the customer services award on Friday." Hey, okay, all right. I just asked how you've been. I didn't need a list of all the things that you did in the week and the times that you did them. A softer and nicer answer would be to use the present perfect. "Oh yeah, I've been busy. I've been walking the dog and I've been working. And hey, you know what happened to me? I've won an award. I was so happy. Oh wow, good for you." So you see, the past tense and the present perfect are kind of the same as what we're talking about now. If you don't use them, you can easily get into a little bit of trouble with whoever you're talking to because they'll perceive you differently and they won't understand why, and that makes things worse. So, with these contractions, I recommend that you just put into Google enchanted learning, and the word contractions. It'll bring up a page which is at enchantedlearning.com, and you'll see the contractions that I'm going to read to you now. I am, I'm, I will, I'll, I would, I'd, I have, I've, I had, I'd. Now let's just go through a few of these as examples to make it a little bit clearer. I'm going to the park. I'll see you later. I'd like a cup of tea. I've 2 dogs. I'd been busy, but I'm free now. So they take a little bit of practice, but you really have to be using these in spoken English. It's absolutely necessary, especially if you're trying to build up relationships with people. You know, British people are a little bit sensitive to the way things are presented to them. And they easily form opinions, not realizing that is simply an issue of speech. Let's do a few more of these. We're going to the beach. We'll be back later. We'd like your support with that. We've been busy. We'd repaired the computer, but not the laptop. So the last one there, we'd repaired the computer. We had repaired the computer. So these are very subtle, and sometimes they can be overlooked, especially when you have something like we'd repaired the computer. That D, we'd repaired, meaning we have repaired, and we repaired, often can cause problems because if the D is missed, it sounds like you're going into the past tense there. Not a big problem, of course. And if you use it as a possessive, yeah, we'd 2 dogs, but we only have 1 now. So this is just a basic introduction to contractions and why you should use them. If you head over to Enchanted Learning, just put into Google Enchanted Learning Contractions, you'll find a wonderful chart. The actual website address for this, if you're really interested, is enchantedlearning.com/grammar/contractions/index. Okay, you'll find it there, and it's .s/html, but the easiest way is putting it into Google, I think. There's other contractions too, like how. Hey, how's John? How will we get there? How will we get there? How'd he do that? How would he do that? Let me try another one with that one because it's quite tricky. How'd we complete that task? That doesn't sound right, does it? How do we complete? Meaning, how would we complete? It's not a contraction I would use personally, but it's on the list here. How had would be more common. For example, how'd he finish that job so quickly? Meaning, how had he finished that job so quickly? It can be a bit confusing, that one, because we can also contract how did in the same way. So the contractions for where, when, why, how, why is he gone home early, these are a little bit harder to use. So it would be better for you just to begin with the usual I, you, he, she, it, we, and they. They'll be back soon. They'd like that, yes. They've no idea what's coming. He's gone home early, sorry, but can I help? He'd done that before he left, yes. He'd done that before he left, meaning he had done that before he left. So this is just a very basic introduction to contractions. Golden rule is you need to use them. Okay. In quick text messages and emails, you can also use them, but you shouldn't use them in formal writing. But in speaking, absolutely, they have to be there. And if they're not, you're giving someone a subconscious message that you're shouting. So it's really important that you use them regardless of the circumstances you're in. Whether it's very, very formal at a business meeting or whether it's out with your friends, contractions are a necessary part of very basic English and you can't avoid them. So in a presentation, you'll be using them. Okay? In a conversation with your friends, you'll be using them. In there isn't such a thing as informal contractions. Contractions are a necessary way of speaking to show that you are not shouting at somebody. So if you want to keep your job and you want to get on well with your teammates and your audience, if you're doing a presentation, you have to use contractions. It shows good English, it shows connection, it shows a really beautiful way of speaking. They're there for a reason, is to make your speaking easier. And don't think of them as formal or informal, because you would be completely wrong. In writing, it's a bit different. Yes, informal and informal, that rule does apply. So a quick text, a quick email to your friend, that's fine, use contractions, but never try to use them in a business letter, okay, or in a presentation slide, but you'll still be expected to use them in your presentation when you're talking. I hope that's helpful. Remember, enchantedlearning.com has a really lovely chart on this, and I recommend to find that. Just put into Google, enchanted space learning space contractions. That's it from me. See you soon. Bye.